This episode is sponsored by Autry's Healthcare, your trusted partner in compassionate, high-quality home care across Essex County, Union County, and surrounding areas in New Jersey. Welcome to Meals and Mind Show, where wellness begins with what you eat and how you think. With your host, Mimi.
Hi, I am your host, Mimi, and welcome to Meals and Mind, where we dive into the mindset, lifestyle, food, and the ways that connect to real health and caregiving. We keep things simple, grounded, and bite-sized. So whether you are a caregiver, a healthcare professional, or someone who simply wants to feel better on a day-to-day basis, you're on the right place. Today's guest is someone that we respect and we love her work, Carolyn Karoll. She is a licensed therapist, a certified eating disorder specialist who specializes in help in treating eating disorder. And also she has helped people to rebuild and heal the relationship between food and also body image. Carolyn Karoll, welcome to Meals and Mind.
I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor to have you and to speak about that, especially eating disorder. I'm not gonna take away men conversation in that situation, but as a women, we tend to have a little bit of negativity when it comes to relationship between food and body image. I am so honored for you to speak about it. And I can't wait to learn what you have to say from that. Before we start our real conversation, in which I can't really wait, we have a segment where we do bite-sized questions. They are very fun questions. It's very easy question, but the fun thing is you have about 40 to 45 seconds to answer them.
Oh, okay. Do my best.
So I hope you're ready.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Now, let's start with first questions. If you would have a pass for any class, what would it be and why?
I think that it would be voice lessons because I've always wanted to sing. I sing anyway, but I've always wanted to be able to sing like at a club or at a coffee shop and
really?
And yeah, it's just been a dream of mine. So a bucket list thing. So yeah, I did not inherit any kind of voice, and it doesn't stop me. It doesn't stop me. But that is one thing that I think in another lifetime I was a singer.
Do you have any favorite type of music or?
Gosh, I like so many things. I can't really say. There's something where I have to belt it out, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm like really singing with a strong voice. I mean, I have really good stage presence. I just, what comes out of my mouth doesn't sound great. It's so melodic. I got half the battle is the stage presence. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's really good. It's so funny. You have met a lot of people, but yeah, to meet somebody who has inspired to be a singer, that's a real one.
Yeah, well, it's a daydream. Yeah, it's not necessarily inspired to be, but it's when I was a kid, I always thought I'd be a
singer.
A movie star or a singer, right?
Oh wow. Well,
like a very small child. That was my
second question. We're about to ask the second question. What is your ultimate guilty pleasure when it comes to food?
Well, I don't like to say guilty pleasure because I don't feel guilty about eating anything.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So
I like
I love lots of foods, but I think a really good bread pudding.
Bread pudding.
Yeah. A really yummy bread pudding is like one of my favorite things. It's very much a comfort food.
Oh,
yeah.
I have one. I love the fact that you say you don't feel guilty about any food. I think we should never feel guilty about food because the minute we feel guilty about food, we just very conscious, and I think that's where the problem or the issue is.
Yeah, I mean, it takes the joy.
Yeah,
it
takes the joy
right?
out of it.
Yeah,
but I definitely feel guilty about eating spicy food. I just every time I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop it. I don't want it. It's not good for me in a sense. But anything, I think it's like anything. If I have something, I would like a little bit spice.
Because you have a reaction to it. Do you have like physically?
No, I don't have any reaction to it.
Okay.
I think I just don't want it to give me heartburn.
That's what I mean, like heartburn. Yeah, that's what I meant by reaction.
Yeah.
So it's the thing that you love, but your body doesn't love it.
Exactly.
Yes, I can understand that. Right, because you're just choosing the taste over the, like you're gonna pay for it later. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm
that's a
gonna
tough
pay. That's
one.
a tough
Yeah.
one. It just I
Yeah.
feel always feel guilty like when I'm like, oh my God, what is that? I have to drink a little bit water because obviously
Yeah.
all the time it's like, yeah, I
That's so
feel
interesting that that's how you think about guilt. It's a very kind of innocent way to think about guilt, right? As opposed to, oh, I'm gonna gain weight. I'm going to, that's what most people would say. I feel
yes.
guilty
Yeah.
because of that. But that you're saying because my body's not going to like me, right? I have
And now it's
a
not
health
gonna like me later.
consequence. Yeah.
Now we are going into the third questions.
Okay.
What is something you're really good at or a talent that you're mostly proud of?
I'm a really good listener. I think that that's probably, and I can lip sync as well. I don't know if that's the real talent, but if that was a job, that's the job that I would be doing. I
You
love
would
my
win
job.
it.
I love being a therapist. I love being a writer and an author and a speaker. But if I could lip sync for a living, it's thanks to summer camp. I had a lot of practice.
We move
You
on
didn't
to the
expect that, did you?
we're gonna move on to the fourth questions.
Okay.
Who is your favorite speaker? Someone you relate to, and you enjoy listening to, on a daily basis. And what have you learned from the content? What do you love about the message?
I don't know. My first thought from the question, I know I only have 45 seconds. I probably ought to. My first thought from the second would be my mother, who is passed. She was a state senator in Maryland, and she was she would speak. I think she's the speaker that I heard my whole life.
Oh,
And I was always so impressed by her confidence and her ability to engage individuals, even in a large crowd. And she often spoke about themes of social justice. Yeah, I mean, that's just like when I think of speaker, I think as do speaking engagements, I really try to channel
oh, to
her.
channel her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I mean, I don't like to put her in the past sentence and ask her what was her name, but
Oh yeah, you can. It was I'm proud to say, right? Her name was Barbara Huffman.
I sincerely condolence for that. I do apologize to hearing that. My parents are, still with me, and that is a blessing. That is a blessing, and then the reason I'm saying it's a blessing because we have so many of us that do not have that, and to be
Yes.
able to talk to her till this day, she lives in Canada, and every summer my daughters that goes to Canada and to spend time with her. So
Oh, that's really nice.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I think what drew me to this podcast is the caregiver part, and that my mother at the end of her life had amazing caregivers that helped us
Oh.
out, and they are still with my father. And it was so impactful having that experience of working alongside, getting to know them, seeing how they gave my mama so much dignity at the end of her life, and really like loved her.
Yes, of
And
course.
that kind of work, I just can't say enough about like how inspiring and in awe I am of it.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It is. That is very important. I always say that it takes a very special person to be a caregiver.
Yes.
Whether you're a caregiver for your loved one or whether you're a caregiver for someone else, and
Mhm.
you treat them as
And they
if
become
they're-
a loved one.
yeah,
Yes.
and you treat them as their loved one.
Yes.
It takes a real special person, and there's many of us. I know there's this world where we, especially when we're watching the news and hearing things and hearing stories.
Mhm.
Now they have very good people that are services and serve, other people as if they're loved ones, especially
Yeah.
in the end of their life, in a
Yes.
sense. We are at the last question.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
I think that we went over the 45. Well, I
Yeah,
think it's
maybe we can just forget the rest of it. No, I'm just joking.
Is there any quotes or saying that you try to live by?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them, but the one that's coming up right now is what we resist persists.
Persist. Oh.
Yeah, so that's Carl Jung's the psychiatrist quote, and I think about it and use it often. It's the thing that we try to avoid it. It's still there. In fact,
Yeah.
it can amplify it. Be that an emotion or like parts of ourselves we're not so happy with, or so many things. So being able to face things and actually right? Like things soften. They don't pile up when we
Yeah.
resist it. It's like there's a metaphor in acceptance commitment therapy about like a beach ball, and you like if you take a beach ball and you push it down in the water,
Yeah.
coming up, right?
Come on, yes.
Yeah.
I would say at a young age, I couldn't grasp that concept
Mm-hmm.
until obviously later on when I get
Yeah.
when I'm too old right now. But
Yeah.
anyhow, it's a real issue.
You're never
Yeah,
too
because
old. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I think I couldn't grasp the idea as whatever whatever you think. For me, if you take over certain things, you put yourself up to failure. So
Mhm.
basically, when you take it in a way when you or a negative way and when it comes out positive and you're like, oh my God, but I think at the end of the day, it's just I have learned that whatever you do, it just do it out of your heart and don't have any expectation. I think what happened is the expectation. Whatever is persists because of you attach yourself to the expectation. Yeah.
Right. It makes it a lot bigger. There's a German proverb that says, fear makes the wolf larger than he is.
Yes.
Right. Like this idea that, right, when we're so afraid of something, it becomes insurmountable.
Yes.
And then we kind of run away from it.
Perfect. How did you feel about those questions? It was
Good.
fun, right?
Yeah, they were fun. They were
I
fun. Serious, fun, laughed, I cried. It was perfect. It ran the gamut. Yeah. It was it was good.
It was good.
Good. I feel like you got to know me a little bit.
A little
Yeah.
bit. So
Yeah.
this is the idea. We would love
Yeah.
to get to know, her, especially our
Yeah.
listeners. We would love to get to know our guests
Yeah.
beyond what they do, what they're very
Mhm.
good at. So
Yeah.
I'm very happy that you're inspired to be a singer. Now let's dive into our conversation.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about the diet culture
Mhm.
and body image.
Okay.
Your work has helped minimizing eating disorder, and this challenge is one that, and the message is one body image. I would like to ask you a few questions about what you have done to help people heal the relationship between food and also body image. Before we dive into the topics of diet culture, it is important for our listeners to understand the foundation of it. Can you explain what weight stigma is and why is it so harmful to overall health?
Yeah. Yeah. So weight stigma, it's negative attitudes or stereotypes towards people. And what I'm going to use the word, there's no great word for this, but I'm going to use
Yeah.
larger bodies. Why I
Okay.
don't love it because it goes larger than what, but we're going to say, it's negative attitudes, stereotypes, and discrimination of people in larger bodies. So we see weight stigma in all kinds of places. You could, see it at a doctor's office. You can see it in schools with kids
Yeah.
being bullied. It exists in all sorts of settings with people that you don't actually expect to be having stigma, because there's just a lot of misinformation around bodies and weight. So the problem with the weight stigma is that, just like any kind of discrimination, it really takes a toll on someone's self-esteem. So it can lead to depression, anxiety, and even eating disorders.
Yeah.
And there's also like a real physical impact of weight stigma too. When someone is being stigmatized, there's a lot of stress, obviously, and the
Yeah, from
stress,
that.
right, we know
Yes.
raises cortisol levels, and
Yeah.
that affects blood pressure and inflammation. And then there's a lot of shame because people are ashamed about their bodies, so they may even avoid going to the doctors or doing things that are health promoting activities because they don't want to be like ridiculed. And I see that all the time in my practice. So it actually even increases the risk of weight gain because people are maybe avoiding these health promoting activities, avoiding taking
Because
care of themselves. Or they might diet and then yo-yo diet and lose and gain and that which affects them metabolically. So it has this profound effect, like any type of stigma. It is I believe it really is a social justice issue.
Do you think it has, obviously, being in this country, they have several and many different culture. Do
Hmm.
you think that with Sigma, well, not describing, how would I say that? They're just like when it comes to, because the thing is, when I remember the reason I'm saying that is just because I have a friend of mine. She has two sons. In our culture, which is the Haitian culture,
Yeah.
her children, when they are, especially around the age of 1 and 2 and stuff like that, it's very good when we see our children, in a sense, being full. I'm not using large, in a sense, being
Yeah.
full, but when you tend to see your kids to have a little bit leaner body, you
Yeah.
keep thinking that, is she or he okay? Are you
Yes.
feeding her? They don't understand, is it maybe it's genetic that
Hmm.
kids, just because she
Yes,
has a
there's a
leaner body,
yeah.
that doesn't mean
Yeah.
she's not
There's a
healthy.
right, a genetic blueprint that we all have,
And
right?
she end up over, I wouldn't say overfeeding her boys, but she
Hmm.
end up feeding her boys because she had that with Sigma in her mind that
Hmm.
to look healthy, especially
Yeah.
when it comes to kids or children, they have to be a little bit fuller.
Yeah, and I
So,
think it's a little different with kids in
uh-huh,
general. Sometimes, I mean, look, I'm sure there are people, I know there are people that shame people's kids for being too big, but I
yeah,
think a lot of times people like that's the problem is that I think for kids, people are like, "Oh, look, you're so chunky. This is so cute and
yeah,
good."
yeah.
And then something happens, right? Something switches often. And where then kids grow up and they see people talking about, oh, I have to lose weight, I have to, like, it changes. Well, I call it like a loss of innocence, right? There was a time where food's just food and your body is just your body, but then when messages
Yeah.
that kind of infiltrate you, but I think what you're saying, tell me if I'm wrong, but in different cultures, right? Like, are you saying like are having a larger body around her body, is
What
that
what I'm trying to say, or what I'm saying is, do you think with Sigma, obviously different culture views it differently, thinking that they do, in a sense?
I think that a really good movie to watch about this topic. It's older, but it's really good. It's called The Illusionist. It's a
Hmm.
body image documentary, and it's a global. Talks about like diet culture globally,
Hmm.
that the influence of Western cultures, thin ideals, has been unfortunately infiltrating a lot
So
of different
others.
cultures,
Oh, okay,
and
I see.
and not that people don't sure there are people that may see the weight as a sign of prosperity or
Yes.
what have
Hmm.
you, but I feel like the Western culture's reach because of media and social
Oh,
media
I
has gone
see.
so far
So far
that
beyond,
it
yeah. So
is
they're
it is
kind of,
it is um it is challenging, right? I also recommend, some if your listeners are interested, Dr. Sabrina Strings wrote a book, I think it's Fearing the Black Body, and it talks about sort of the racist origins of diet culture. Is
hmm,
that some bodies became vilified during, we can talk about this issue as like a colonialism where black bodies were vilified, and so the white European features were idealized, and
yeah,
it's
the,
that messed up. Let me put it this way, like that this is a very complicated topic. I wish there were more people that I would see, at least in the United States, like saw weight as just weight, and that we all have
yeah,
different
not
genetic
just,
blueprints.
yes,
And
of course.
because I feel for your friend, I mean, that's very stressful to be worried that people are going to question her parenting, and then she
Yes.
ends up feeding her kids in a ways that actually aren't healthy for them. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, I think it's just the stigma based on her culture,
Yeah.
that led her to, this kind of
Yeah.
behavior. But
Yeah.
then again, you know being here and seeing things, and all of us obviously visiting doctors and stuff like that. So basically, there were requests for her to put her boys into a diet.
Yeah.
to
Which is such a
minimize the weight.
confusing message, right?
Exactly. This is a
Yes.
confusing message because yes, this is a very confusing message. Now that we have a sense of what weight
Yeah.
stigma is and how it can differentiate from culture to culture, now let's connect it to the bigger system, what we hear so much about, and you just spoke about it too.
Hmm.
How does diet culture contribute to mental
Sure.
health challenges and disorder and eating disorder, especially as people age?
Yes, yes. Okay. Well, first, it would be important to define what diet culture is. I kind of like to say, like, what isn't it? Because it's so pervasive. So it's this, it's a belief system that equates thinness with health, worth, morality, you name it, right? It frames like certain bodies and foods even as good and others as bad, right? So
Hmm.
the problem, there's a lot of problems, but it promotes this like constant like body monitoring and criticism and shame, right?
Hmm.
And then it encourages people to go on these restrictive diets or these fad diets or do all kinds of things to lose weight,
Hmm.
which then often leads people then in a state of they're in a state of deprivation physiologically. The pendulum swings, and then people end up feeling out of control around food and binging, and then they feel really guilty, and then they
Hmm.
restrict again, right?
Of
It's the
course, yeah.
cycle. And feeling like then they feel like a failure when the weight loss is not sustained and long term. And we know statistically that it won't be
Yeah.
long term. So as people age, the pressures may shift a little, but they don't disappear. And I have to say, in my practice, and I'm an eating disorder specialist, a psychotherapist, I see people in all stages of life. I see people in their 60s. I see people from the youngest. I don't see teens as much anymore in my practice, but they exist, but it runs the gamut, right? Midlife and beyond is a huge group of people. But so what happens is the message might shift a little bit. Anti-aging becomes, right, a big thing, or
Yeah.
menopause weight changes. This loss of agency, loss of people can feel like invisible.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of times people have internalized beliefs their whole life. So when their body shape changes, as it does as we get
Yes. Of
older,
course. Yes.
they can feel like loss of value, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And capability. So then that can lead to anxiety, depression, social withdrawal, and eating disorders as well.
Yeah.
And it can be really hard to wrap your head around. I mean, I've seen people that are, later in life and are maybe have like some serious health issues. And they're going, oh, I don't think I can wear that shirt because my arms show. And you're thinking, oh my gosh. It's so heartbreaking though, right? You
Yeah.
go, I am I going to be that age? And you think how much time is wasted.
Yes. It
And
is.
it's not
Yeah.
their fault. I mean, they've internalized these messages, but it's so sad because you go, at the end of the day, nobody's going to stand up, right, at your funeral and say, oh, wow, she had size whatever waist or whatever arms. It doesn't matter.
You mentioned something about the message. So
Mhm.
practically, when you're looking at the diet culture, any culture, there's certain the message that's being fed to the
Yeah.
public. That message, obviously everybody gonna take it different way. Everybody gonna analyze it in different ways. Everybody gonna use it different ways. But it seems like it tends to be on a negative side, meaning is when you're looking at it, it seems like they paint a picture of it.
Hmm.
Then they said, if you're not that,
Yeah.
that's where all the challenges comes
Y-
from.
yes.
Do you think that kind of message can ever reverse in a positive way? Where said, okay,
Hmm.
I know we understand we have a diet culture. Diet culture can be used, or the message can be, all right, we're gonna use our culture not to compare, not to be negative, but to be healthier. Can the
Right.
message change,
Right. I think that
or just we
we
want,
have to look at the
oh,
commercial. Yeah.
we
Go ahead.
should eliminate diet culture completely?
Yeah. I think you have to look at like what fuels it, and it's $1 billion businesses. I mean, it's
Yeah.
an industry.
Yes.
And the industry profits from one's insecurity. If I felt secure and I was just really taking care of myself, then I wouldn't have to keep coming back and proving. Like I don't, it can't I there's that's a saying, you can't put lipstick on a pig, right? Like
Yeah.
that the message is that there's a hierarchy of bodies. That diet culture says there's morality attached to one's body and what someone eats, and there's no way to make that sound better.
General.
Yes. There's no way to take that message. And I think that there's a philosophy, let me go backwards. I think there's a lot of messages in our society. I know there's a lot of messages in our society that equate weight with health.
Yeah.
And right, we've come to learn, we've come to learn that you can be at all different weights, and your health status is not contingent on that weight. There's a framework called 𝐂𝐄𝐃. It's health at every size, and I encourage your listeners to check that out. They have some really accessible information online, and what their focus is really on health promoting behaviors. So you talk about with health, look at like healthy habits, as far as like what kind of like movement does one enjoy? Are we like eating with variety and nutrition and stress reduction, community, like all of these factors that they're health promoting behaviors. And regardless of one's weight, sometimes when people engage in these health promoting behaviors, their weight changes, and sometimes it doesn't. But that can't be the goal, right? If the goal was, if the truth was that if everybody lost weight, they're healthy, then I wouldn't see a lot of very sick people in my office that are very thin.
That's very thin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is so true. And we do promote, especially a leaner body, in a sense, as being healthy than a bigger body. But that doesn't really mean that just because you are a little bit fuller doesn't mean you're not healthy.
No. And in fact, there's studies on mortality rates that you're actually like statistically, we're going to live longer if you're, and I again have to use that word, overweight or underweight, but if you're a little like overweight compared to underweight. So, I think we get it wrong. And by getting it wrong, it actually makes people unhealthy. Right? Like yeah. Like, because people forget that they forget to listen to their bodies, right?
That
like I think we know how to eat. We know how to. Typically we knew how to eat at some point, and then we were told all of these things, and then get confused and lost, and really far away from our internal cues, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
I that really, when you mentioned about that, I think I was scrolling into TikTok, and then was it TikTok? I think it was either TikTok or YouTube. This gentleman, he's trying to portray where whatever you do, it's never be good. Like everybody has an opinion about it. So it's like about to crack eggs, and it was like, remember a commercial?
Yes.
Remember a commercial? Like, wait, what are you eating?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I think it's an older thing, but there's one that is diets over the years, and they had something like that too. It's like they're about to do something, and they're like, no, that's not good. And then yeah.
I think it's what it is, and I'm trying to get, and listen to your body. Like I said again, it comes. Well, I shouldn't. I'm trying to use that as an example. For example, like I said, I love spicy food.
No, exactly. I was thinking about that too. I'm like, well, some of us listen to our bodies. No, but you know what you're doing. At least your eyes are wide open. You're doing, but that's true though. Like you not having the spicy food is not because you're afraid of like gaining weight. You go, I know my body doesn't respond well to this.
Yeah.
I have people I see that have celiac disease. They are not eating gluten because they will get very, very sick. There's a lot of people that don't have celiac disease, that think that they can't have this food. It becomes a diet. And the
Oh,
person I see that has celiac disease says, I wish I could eat this. I wish, I can't, I can't. My
I
body like
can't.
does not
It's just not
respond. I can't,
respond to it.
yeah. But we lose sight of those things because we put so many rules and stuff. We forget to listen to
Or listen to what
our
to
wisdom and our
exactly.
wisdom. How does
Yes,
this food make me feel? Does
exactly.
it give me energy? Does it like, right? Do I get a rash from it? Do I feel
Exactly.
full? There's all
Yeah.
kinds of things that,
It's all the time.
yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
That really brings me into the eating disorder.
Hmm.
Many people think eating disorder look one way.
Yeah.
What are some of the misconceptions that you often address in your work?
Yeah, I think that there's a misconception that eating disorders only affect young, thin white women. And that couldn't be farthest
Far
from the
from.
truth. I mean, it does not discriminate. I see people of all genders, races, socioeconomic status, and all different body types too. You can't tell if somebody has an eating disorder by looking at them.
At looking at them.
Yeah, I think that, look, I grew up I remember in the 70s, there was a movie called like The Best Little Girl in the World. And I think,
The
and
best
it,
little girl?
yes, yes, The Best Little Girl in the World. I know some of your listeners are like, oh my gosh, I remember that movie. I would see a lot of people in eating disorder treatment that said that's kind of what started them on an eating disorder because they would kind of see
Oh.
what this person was doing. Or they think of Karen Carpenter, the singer,
Oh,
and it's
yes,
like a
yes.
certain like look, right? And
Yes.
yes, like, but eating disorders affect all kinds of people. And also there's a continuum of what eating disorders are. They're it's not just restricting one's intake of food. It can be accompanied by binging. It can be accompanied by purging, so self-induced vomiting, or overexercising, laxatives, diuretics. It can run the gamut. And it's most common that there's a lot of diagnostic crossover. So someone starts with one eating disorder, right? Starts with restricting, and then they add this, and then they add that over time. It just kind of happens that way physiologically, right? It can be, again, if someone's restricting intake for so long, the pendulum usually will swing at some point.
Yeah.
I think that the myth keeps people from getting help, or from
Oh.
because people don't expect them. You can't have an eating disorder, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
You don't fit
They fit that
that
image.
stereotype. And then it delays people getting treatment. And then that causes even more problems because of prognosis gets worse. And, and people just are also ashamed of seeking help. And a lot of times they don't even know they have an eating disorder. They don't think they look like what they expect. I'm not
I'm
sick enough is like a big,
yes.
yeah. It's a big
I'm
thing people say.
I'm glad that you ended with that conversation. One of the things that you mentioned, the misconception. I mean, some people, most majority of people think eating disorder look one way in the sense like the typical, female or
Mm-hmm.
probably early 20s and
Yeah.
white and okay, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But and also too, as a mother who
Mm-hmm.
has two daughters, what are the signs I can what and you said some people don't really think it's an eating disorder because they don't really I don't look sick enough. What can they look for?
Mm-hmm.
Or what
Yeah.
can they say, okay, I see something and I'm like, this is
Yeah.
not normal and
Yeah.
my child and she definitely has an eating disorder. What should they not even look for or what they probably see and that should
Mm-hmm.
be alarming to them to say,
Yeah.
hey, they have to take an action right away.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it's the constellation of things that like one of these things might not seem problematic, but when you see the constellation of them. So if your child is every time you eat, they go run to the bathroom right after they're eating.
Okay.
If you like see that there's been some significant change in the amounts that they're they're eating, or if they always tell you, oh, I already ate, like if you're like, I don't know how old their kids are, but oftentimes people go, oh, I ate at my friend's, or I did this, and you don't really see them eating. If they were menstruating and then that stopped, that's a going to be a physical sign. If they, like, you notice there's like cold intolerance where there wasn't before, right?
Mm.
There's so many like different little things. If you notice like someone, like if you're eating together and they're like using food rituals, so like cutting their food in really small pieces, or eating in this certain way where they eat different sections, or not, or actually not taking things that they used to, and they're just wanting vegetables, or saying, I'm just going to do my own thing, and never being able to be flexible, right? Because there's some of like developmentally, as kids get older, they might be like, well, yeah, I did go eat with my friend or whatever, but if they won't actually just sit down, they can't be flexible and just go out to a restaurant or eat at home, then they, they get really activated. They're like, okay. If you notice large quantities of food being missing, that could be that they're binging or hiding food. And the most important thing is not to shame someone, and to say, like, this is what I've noticed.
Yes.
Because it's just the fact, right? Like, I noticed, like, can we like talk about it? And certainly if the weight changes sometimes happen, sometimes you notice significant weight changes, sometimes you don't. Oftentimes people too might be hiding their bodies. And if you notice like more baggy clothes, if they've lost weight, or they become more isolated, from their friends or family. So there's a bunch of things. Yeah.
I think you have given us a lot of great tips, especially, as mothers, to, especially, raising girls. Now, what have you seen those challenges in boys?
Yeah, yes, I have. And what I've seen that I haven't seen as much of in women is also like this becomes a compulsive exercise in fixation on building muscle, on like kind of sculpting body to look this certain way. So that has been, I mean, I've seen the gamut with eating disorders in men, from binging to exercise compulsion, to, just restricting their intake of food. And they really can go certainly under the radar, right? Because people are not expecting that. And also, just like with women, it can be praised, right? If someone is, wow, you have so much discipline, like, look what you're doing. And then, and oh, you look great. Because people might look good until they don't, right?
Yes,
like, it's kind of like, so unwittingly, those comments are maintaining the eating disorder. I don't see as many men in my practice, but I do see men, and I don't know if I think that there's more out there too, there's a lot of stigma too about, saying you have an eating disorder and getting help, but there's a lot of parallels as well in the symptoms.
I could understand, like, not have seen a lot of men or boys come to the clinics, but as you mentioned it before, that the stigma of it, or the perception of eating disorder, what it looks like. So practically, if it doesn't look this way, or if it doesn't, we always have that image in our mind for that. And all boys, all men can be suffering from that.
Yes.
And we just don't have any idea. What can be done to change that?
I think there's more awareness, so more talking about it, more campaigns that talk about it. When there has been some where you can't tell, this campaign for eating disorder awareness month. I remember, I forgot exactly what it was, but it was like, right, you can't tell someone has an eating disorder by looking at them.
Yes.
But I think just giving more education. I think that pediatricians and primary care doctors and being educated in general about eating disorders, because there is a big gap in education. even in medical schools, but certainly having awareness too, along with just, eating disorders in women, but just what to look for in men and ask those same questions, right? So we need to ask questions on screenings. We need to, yeah, like I think it's a lot of education, maybe in the systems where we're training people to
Hmm.
spot it, and as well as in schools and in different places where people can reflect on like, is this a healthy behavior that I'm doing? And certainly parents to understand that. And I think it's not just eating disorders. I think it's mental illness in general, right? There's still, well, things have gotten better. There's still a lot of stigma with men, I feel like, or male identifying people to seek help. There's still sometimes this idea of I've got to be strong, I don't do therapy. I don't,
I don't
yeah,
cry.
yeah, 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 yeah,
I don't
yeah.
ask for direction.
I'm
People
right,
would know. I
exactly.
don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Like, great, served you well. And so you shouldn't be proud of any of that. It's very archaic. I tell them, I said, like, the most attractive thing you can do is like you be sensitive and talk about your feelings because they're like, well, people don't gonna find me attractive. I'm like, no, 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 it's attractive. If that's what, yeah, however I can get them right to open up a little bit more.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
don't understand that. Opening up, it's
No,
part of being
it's
communicative.
human. Yeah,
It's
human.
part human
It's part of being
communicative
human.
about
It's not that you don't
what
have feelings. I mean, everybody has them. It's what you do with them, right?
I know that you wrote a book, Eating
Mm-hmm.
Disorder Group Therapy, which is a collaborative
Mm-hmm.
approach. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so Eating Disorder Group Therapy, a Collaborative Approach is a book I co-authored with a dietitian who also specializes in eating disorders, Adina Silverman. And it's a book really for clinicians, so dietitians or therapists that want to run a group. And it does everything from tell you like how to get started to when you have your group activities to do,
Oh,
because groups are really can be really transformative in so many ways, right? Community is allows for change that can't necessarily happen on an individual basis. On like a if someone comes to therapy, you get something very different in a group in that community. It helps with the isolation. I don't feel alone. I don't feel alone anymore. I get this mutual support, cohesiveness, is really just like a powerful catalyst to change. So the book is really it's everything from like a how to, get this started to how to keep it going, because I found that group work has been so rewarding for
yeah.
myself and my co-facilitator and the members. So yeah, we're really proud of that.
For someone listening who is feeling a little bit of weight body image
Hmm.
struggle,
Hmm.
um, and also have full, like, guilty food. And I know
Yeah.
I love the fact that you said, I don't have any guilty pleasure. I don't like to think it that way,
Yeah.
especially when I'm eating something.
Yeah.
But we're talking about someone who has a guilt every time they
Yeah.
eat, and they're
Of
just like, oh my
course.
God, I'm going to gain 10
Yes.
weights by tomorrow. I don't think
Hmm.
that's possible. But
No, it's
anyhow,
not. It's not. But again, I think we're meant to believe that, right? And it could be and it's not and even thinking that that's the scariest thing ever, that I gain weight, right?
what's one step they can take to, towards healing so they don't
Yes.
have this kind of message and to
Gosh,
change that kind of message?
I think there's so many steps, but I think the first is turning that like criticism into kindness and compassion, right? Like, you think like, would you ever talk to like someone you love as you
That
talk
way.
to yourself? And then so that's like a huge thing, right? That I think that in general, right? Like not just about this topic, but all the things, right? Like that I don't know anybody that's bullied themselves into lasting change, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is being a critical thinker. I think that one doesn't, I think we give over our authority to other people to tell us, especially like people online that are telling you this diet or that diet is like the
Yes,
best
yes.
thing. And I think you can really go back to your lived experience. And if you really think about it, you can look at how that this hasn't actually been, this hasn't really worked. and this is the kicker, I really want people to hear this part. It's not your fault that those systems were set up for failure. So then you can do it again and again.
And
Like
again, yeah.
nobody, like a diet, being told that you have to do this really restrictive thing is we're not built that way, right? Like we can't sustain that, and people are led to feel like they're failures. And I think then that causes, right, like so much harm and disconnection from food in one's body. So
Yeah.
I think that I encourage people to do reading as
Yeah.
well, read about this concept we're talking about today, diet culture. Read about movements like health at every size. Read about the intuitive eating, if you've not heard of that. This kind of way of eating that's really like listening to yourself, right? And it's great, people that have been chronic dieters. I also would say get off the social media accounts that make you feel bad about yourself.
Especially for the comparison.
Yes, and
Yeah.
remember that
Different.
all have different genetic blueprints.
Yes.
That we should not be pathologizing natural diversity of bodies. They exist, and they all have value.
Change can be a very good thing, but change can be, for some people, change can be challenging, especially when you're trying to get to a positive sort of what you've been doing is positive behavior. But
Yeah.
the fact that it can be so hard, and you have given great tips, listening to them, get off of social media, talk to listen, get off social media, change a bit of diet. I mean, not that, such a little bit of habits or behavior to start
Yeah.
the healing process.
Yeah.
But for some people, it can be an extreme challenge.
Yeah.
What would you suggest?
Give me a call. So I'd say get help.
Get
I
help.
mean, I really feel like even if you don't know if you have an eating disorder, even if you're just you're frustrated with your body,
Yeah.
you don't know like what you feel like your failure with dieting, like actually like look for somebody that specializes in, even if you're not sure if you have an eating disorder, people that specialize in eating disorders will specialize in the continuum. I see some people that are like, they're sub-threshold, right, with a diagnosis. So but it's still just as bad in that dieting has taken a toll, or hating their bodies has taken a toll on them and their lives in every aspect. And so, and also a dietitian that is not one that's promoting weight loss, but promoting having a healthier relationship with food. And so I often look for the people that have been trained in this intuitive eating, where they are like a non-diet approach, but that doesn't mean not healthy. It means healthy in the actually authentic way. And so, so I think getting help is, because you're right. I think that this is really hard, and you can
It is.
do
Can be
those
hard.
things.
Yeah.
It's so hard. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And you can do those things, but you're you're surrounded, and you've had a lifetime of internalization of messages that you're not good enough, and you shouldn't eat this, and you should eat that. And just, it feels like too much. And that's where it's reach out and get some help, because there's people out there that will understand what you're going through.
Yeah, and it is a journey. Anything healing, it's a journey.
Yeah.
And when it comes to a journey, it's better to be surrounded by people that's supporting you
Yeah.
instead of going through it by yourself. Obviously, you can get all the research, but there's something called accountability too. To have someone and you can speak to, especially who specialize in that.
Yes.
And then that can help you be accountable to certain behavior, so you won't fall into the same pattern which is a very good thing. We can turn off, you know how many times I turn off my TikTok and go
Yeah.
back to it. So it's just
Yeah.
so funny.
Well, that's
And
right, because the algorithms are meant to do that to you.
meant
You
to do
know,
that.
like, I mean, it's addictive.
It
Yeah.
is very much addictive. So it's important. So that is why anything that you really want to heal and any type of journey, especially when you cross over to the start accumulating good behavior, it's
Mm-hmm.
important to speak to a therapist. It's important
Yeah.
to speak to someone who specializes on that can really lead you and guide you, to a better result. I truly believe that. So, Carolyn, please tell us a little bit of how can people connect with you and
Sure.
listening to you and hearing you
Yeah.
speaking about that. I think it's very important the message that you are providing because it's a it is a subject that needs to speak about, but it's just
Mhm.
usually speak about behind closed doors,
Yeah,
and
it's
people are
true.
not listening to it very much. And we can
Hmm.
have it next door. We can even have people in our house that are
Oh, yeah.
suffering for that, and we
Yep.
don't even know
We
because we
don't
don't
even
know
know.
we don't know the
Right.
signs.
Absolutely.
We don't know
Absolutely.
the signs. We really don't know. We don't have any education about it.
Hmm.
We never really
Hmm.
heard about it. So please tell us how
Yeah.
they can
So,
continue and listening to
yeah.
you.
Yeah. So I can be reached. Um, you can look at I'll give you my website. So that's www.Karoll. It's Karoll counseling. So it's Karoll Counseling. It's a mouthful.com. And on that website, you can find links to, to my email and my phone. And so that, if you're interested in my services, or I can, if you're in a different state, because I serve the state of Maryland, I am certainly happy to provide some referrals if this is something you're interested in. My speaking, it just depends on what's going on. So if you look at the website, sometimes I will have stuff up there. But I also, I also write a blog. This is probably the way that most people can get information in really bite-sized ways,
Mm-hmm.
is that I write a blog for psychologytoday.com. And I think it's called Eating Disorder Recovery. But if you just kind of look my name up, Carolyn Karoll, it's
Carol.
Karoll, and Psychology Today, the blog posts will come up and you can kind of sign up for that. They're, again, bite-sized, and they talk about all the things that we talked about today and more. Yeah, they're really accessible. So I think that's probably the best way.
The best way.
Hmm.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. I have learned a
Yeah.
great deal
Thank
about
you for having
body
me.
image. It's very much an honor to have you, especially on our podcast, because it's very important for us. The message that we're trying to put out there is just to be healthy, not
Hmm.
necessarily to be lean on the
Yeah,
body, but the
but
the
really health. Yeah,
the
that's,
result is
yep,
being healthy,
yep,
not the body type. We're
yep.
not looking at the body type. We're looking at the being healthy and whatever body
Hmm.
type that comes from.
Yep.
Thank
I
you
love
so
to
much.
hear it. Yeah, yeah, you got
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And have a great day.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
This episode is sponsored by 𝐻𝐚𝐫 Healthcare, your trusted partner in compassionate, high-quality home care. From skilled nursing and pediatric care to 24/7 live-in assistance and essential care services, 𝐻𝐚𝐫 is here to support your health journey every step of the way. Learn more at 𝐻𝐚𝐫healthcare.com or call 1-866-428-8747 to book a quick consultation with our licensed nurse. Because at 𝐻𝐚𝐫, we believe care should feel like family.